How's it going? David from Comic Book Investments. Well, 2022 is upon us. And now let's look at the top 10 comic books for investing. Now this is different than my top 10 speculation comics, because speculation is like you really don't know, high risk, high reward type of thing. And also a lot of those speculation books, there's a time and place to sell them. These top 10 comics that I'm going to talk about in this video is going to be for long-term investing. And I'll explain why I think these comics are good for long-term investing. I will link the video to my top 10 speculation up above. And so let's get into it. Let's look at the top 10 comics for investment for 2022. All right, now there's a ton of books on this list, but I can only give a few. These are what I think are really good ones. All right, number 10 on the list. We got Marvel Family number 1. That is the first appearance of Black Adam. So in 2021, the most recent sale for a 2.5 was $5,000. These are actual sales numbers. And that is a 5-year return of 170% and a 10-year return of 1,150%. The record sale for a 9.4 in 2021 was $186,000. Now, if you look at the very bottom, I compare this to stocks, which I like to do because this is all about investing. In that 10-year span, the Dow went up 194%, the S&P 500 went up 273%, and I like to pick a few really good stocks that have been great stocks over the last 10 years, and that would be Amazon, up 1,774%, and Apple up a little over 1,000%. Now, as you can see, this comic in 5 years, 170%. In 10 years, it's gone up over 1,000%, 1,150%. That beats out Apple, which, if you know stocks, Apple and Amazon have been great stocks. Now, it doesn't come close to Amazon with that 1,700%, but if you also look at the Dow Jones, it is way above the Dow Jones and way above the S&P 500 in that same 10-year span. Now, why is this book on here? This is the first appearance of Black Adam, played by The Rock. We already saw a trailer. No speculation here. But why do I think this is a good long-term investment? I think that this movie is going to do really well. I also see the character building and building and building up. Now, if you can't get Marvel Family number 1, it's fine. It's really hard to get. Old Golden Age, I recommend. But you can also go for the cheaper version, which is Shazam number 28. That's the first silver appearance. And also, it's the first time that Black Adam is in the DC universe. Before that, he was on Fawcett Comics. Let's move on to number 9. We got Super Mario Brothers number 1. Now, many might not know this, but this is one of the very first Valiant comics. All right, in 2021, a 9.8 currently sits at about 2,200. That is a 5-year return of 923%, a 10-year return of 2,650%. It had a record price in 2021 for a 9.8 selling for $3,100. Now, if you can't get this book, you can get the Super Mario Brothers Special Edition. Came out a few months later, but still a good book to get. Now, obviously the movie's coming out, but I don't think it's much of a speculation because we already know what's going to happen. But I think that there is going to be a run of Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, all sorts of like video game IPs making their way into the movies. And I think that there's going to be a rebirth of movies, kind of how there was with comics with the MCU, but with video games. So I think this is going to be a great book long term. All right, moving on. Number 8, we got Ultimate Fallout 4. This is the first appearance of Miles Morales. In 2021, a 9.8 currently sits at around $29.47. This is an average price. And then a 5-year return of a little over 1,000%, a 10-year return of 1,800%. It had a record sale in 2021 for $3,840. Beats Apple and Amazon, crushes the S&P 500 and all this kind of stuff. If you cannot get the Ultimate Fallout 4, you can always get the Ultimate Fallout 4 second print. So why is this a long-term investment? First appearance of Miles Morales. Not only does he have a video game, he also has one movie, going on 2 movies. This is the kind of stuff that I like to see. I mean, he's going to be a staple going forward long term. He's not just a flash in the pan. They're not getting rid of him. He's staying around for a long time. So this is a good long-term investment. Make sure you get in at a good price though. Right now it's going up because of the Spider-Verse, but I think it still has legs to continue going up for a long time in the future. All right, number 7. We got Strange Tales 110. This is the first appearance of Doctor Strange. In 2021, the average price for a 4.5 was about $4,800 currently. That is a 5-year return of 162% and a 10-year return of 870%. It had a record sale in 2021 for $42,544, and that was at a 9.2. If you cannot get the Strange Tales 110, you can always go for Doctor Strange 169. That is still a good book to get. Now, why is this on here? Why is this a long-term investment? As you know, Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man is no longer with us in the MCU. So they're going to look for someone else to move the MCU forward. And as you can tell, Doctor Strange has been popping up in a lot of things. Like he was in Spider-Man, just how Iron Man was in Spider-Man. I think Benedict Cumberbatch is going to be the new Tony Stark Iron Man, kind of holding everything together. So I think now is a good time to get into Doctor Strange. And it's only going to go up from here. And it's Doctor Strange. He's going to be around for a very, very long time. He's been around since the 60s. He's not going anywhere. All right, moving on. Number 6. We got Giant Size X-Men number 1. In 2021, recently, a 9.4 sells around $12,000. It's had a 5-year return of 471%, a 10-year return of 776%, a record sale in 2021 for 9.8 for $72,000. As you can see here, it doesn't beat Apple or Amazon, which is fine because that is massive, massive stocks, but obviously destroys S&P 500 and Dow Jones. Now, I have said multiple times, I've done these videos every year, and this book is always on the list. If someone came to me and they say, give me like your top 3, I would definitely put this book on the list. I always recommend this book. Not only is it the second appearance of Wolverine, but you also have the first appearance of all the new X-Men. I always recommend this book. This is 6th on the list because I think there's other ones that kind of beat it this year so far. I think there's going to be something happening with the MCU and X-Men, but again, you don't even need the MCU for a powerhouse like this. This is a great Bronze Age book to get. I always recommend, if you cannot get it, there's always the X-Men 94, which is the second appearance of all the other X-Men, third appearance Wolverine, but also the start of the X-Men in that series. All right, moving on. Number 5, we got Fantastic Four number 5, the first appearance of Doctor Doom. In 2021, a CGC 4.0 currently sits at around 11,500. This is real sales data. It has a 5-year return of 680%, a 10-year return of 1,207%. It had a record sale this year in a 9.4 for $138,000. Now this beats Apple. This beats the S&P 500. Dow Jones doesn't beat Amazon in that same 10-year span. If you cannot get this book, if it's too expensive, which it seems to be, you can always go for the FF6, which is the second appearance of Doctor Doom and Silver Age Submariner, and it is the first villain team up in Marvel. So you got all those things going for it for an FF6. Now, why is Doctor Doom on this list? It's Doctor Doom. You can't go wrong. He'll probably show up in the MCU now probably like 2-3 years, right? So this book is only going to get more and more, and I think the MCU is going to get it right. Think about how many times they have tried Doctor Doom. They tried it in the Fantastic Four with Captain America, with Chris Evans, and then they tried it again with the Josh Trank Fantastic Four. They will always try. Doctor Doom, once they get it right, he will be a force to reckon with, and he's going to be around a long, long time. Great book to get in. All right, moving on. Number 4, we got New Mutants 98. This is the first appearance of Deadpool and a few others. And a 9.8 you can get for about $1,900 currently. That has a 5-year return of 157%, a 10-year return of 296%. It had a record sale of a 9.8 this year for $3,000. Now, this looks kind of low. compared to the other ones, but it's the first appearance of Deadpool. I cannot recommend this enough. Deadpool, huge character. Then they put it in the movies. Movies do amazing. They're already making a third movie. Even if Ryan Reynolds is done after the third movie, they will bring Deadpool back eventually one day. This character is going nowhere. Long-term investment. I recommend this book. If you cannot get this book, you can get his first solo series, Deadpool #1. All right, number 3, we got X-Men #1. A 6.0 currently sells for around $38,000. That is a 5-year return of 503%, a 10-year return of 1,088%. It had a record sale this year of $808,300 at a 9.6. Now that beats out Apple, doesn't beat out Amazon, destroys the S&P 500, all that kind of stuff. If you can't get this one, get an X-Men 4. Why not X-Men 2? Well, you want an old X-Men, right? X-Men 2, second appearance of X-Men, first appearance of Vanisher. Great. Okay, whatever. But X-Men 4, you got the second Magneto. You got the first Scarlet Witch. You got the first Quicksilver. First evil Brotherhood of Mutants. So that is old X-Men, early appearance X-Men. That is the one you want to get if you can't get the X-Men #1. But again, you need to get this X-Men #1. It is insane how expensive these Silver Age keys are going for, and it's only going to get worse. Worse in terms of more expensive. Worse for you in your pocketbook. So I would recommend this book, hands down. This is a must get. And then once they come in the MCU, it's only going to get more expensive. So you might be looking, oh, dang, $38,000, that's really expensive, right, for a 6.0. Trust me, these books 5-10 years ago were nothing compared to that now. Think about it. In 10 years, it's gone up over 1,000%. What's it going to do? You think it's just going to stop and only go up 2% a year for the next 20 years? No. It's going to continue going up from this point. All right, number 2, Amazing Fantasy 15. First appearance of Spider-Man. Yes, the first appearance of Spider-Man in Amazing Fantasy 15. A 4.5 currently sits at $78,000. Oh my God, $78,000 for a 4.5. That is a 5-year return of 180%, a 10-year return of 700%. A record sale in 2021, a 9.6 sold for $3.6 million. That is the most expensive a comic book has ever sold for. I cannot stress this enough. Pick up a Fantasy 15. The new Spider-Man movie. Biggest movie Sony has ever had. Ever. Sony Pictures is, 100 years old. Ever had. Biggest movie in its entire history. Spider-Man isn't going anywhere. It is literally staying here forever. You must pick up a copy if you can. This is a great book for long-term investment. If you cannot get this one, go for Spider-Man 1. It's literally probably half to a third of the cost. And it's still a good book because you still got his second appearance, things like that. But yes, you need to get yourself a Fantasy 15. And I know you're like, oh my gosh, 4.5 is $78,000. That's almost $100,000 for a 4.5. For 4.5. Let me tell you, when I first started doing this as a job full time 13 years ago, I would pick up, no joke, Fantasy 15s in low grades like 2.5s for about $1,000. Think about that. 13 years ago, I would pick these up, low grades, for right around $1,000. $1,000. Where can you get like yourself a 2.0 for $1,000? I used to have 4.0, 4.5s. I would get them all the time because they weren't that expensive. You're like $2,000, $3,000. It was a lot, but not like this. Now it's like $78,000, and it's only going to go up. It just broke a record. Let me tell you, it beat out the previous record, which was set by Action Comics #1. Beat out Superman, beat out Detective 27, first Batman. So trust me, it's only going to go up. All right, last one on my list. And you're thinking, it's Fantasy 15 for Spider-Man. What else could it be? It could be an Action 1, but let's be realistic. Those come up like once a year. These are attainable ones that you can actually get. But before I give the #1 investment comic, of 2022. Do me a favor, if you've liked my stuff over the past year and you have not subscribed, think about subscribing. Maybe it'll be a New Year's gift to me. And if you are subscribed, hit that little like button down below. Hope you like this stuff. Here we go. Number 1 on the list. Put it in a comment below. Guess what you think it's going to be. Most of you probably know. Oh my gosh, it's Hulk 181. First appearance of Wolverine. That's why Wolverine was sitting on the back slide the whole time, because I like that picture. Anyways, a 9.0 is going to run you about $11,499. That is a current sale, most recent sale for a 9.0. And that has a 5-year return of 311%. And that same 9.0, it has a 10-year return of 721%. It had a record sale this year in 2021 for $87,330. Now, percentage-wise, doesn't beat Apple, doesn't beat Amazon, but it beats out the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones. If you cannot get yourself a copy of 181, go for 180. It has the first cameo appearance on the last panel of Wolverine. Still a great investment book, because those who can't afford the 181, go down to the 180. Still a great book, 180. I cannot stress this enough. Wolverine is massively popular. It's not as old as Spider-Man, but he is massively, massively popular. And he's only gaining in popularity. Once they put him in the MCU and we have a whole new actor playing him, it's not Hugh Jackman, it's just going to keep on going. This was, I believe, either the first or second, my number 1 or number 2 of last year's top investments. This will be, again, it's number 1. Yes, it's a must get. It's a must get for investments. Like, if you had the choice between getting, everyone on this list that I've given you, or just getting a bunch of Hulk 181s, I tell you just get a bunch of Hulk 181s. Or, throwing a few Fantasy 15s in there. Like, don't even bother with the rest. This is the book you need to own. This is my number 1. I hope you have a great 2022, and I will see you with this list next year.